Welcome to the third episode of Downtime Podcast, where two coworkers talk about video games. I'm Alyssa.
I'm Jeremy.
And today, we're still not on our lunch break, but we're in the middle of work. Things are kind of stressful right now. I'm stressed a little bit.
So it's not downtime?
It's not. You know what it is? It's downtime for the next 30 minutes.
Okay.
Last week, Jeremy was talking about how he was going to play Yakuza Zero. It turns out that I ended up also getting Yakuza Zero for my birthday, and we both played the game, and it's kind of the coolest thing ever.
It's like it's the best game ever right now to me. Like I can't stop playing it. I've been ignoring my PC, and I'm primarily a PC gamer, and I got back into the PS4, and like I can't stop playing Yakuza Zero.
This is my first game in the Yakuza series.
Same.
And it's mind-blowing. It's so much like Japan. I really like how Japanese this game is.
Yes.
It has action, it has drama, it's also over the top, ridiculous, and hilarious. There's a lot of really cool things about this game.
I really like the mini games, like the side games in the game.
I know.
Like you could play full arcade games in the game.
I know. So much fun. So we'll start from the beginning. Yakuza Zero is the prequel to the whole entire Yakuza series that is made by Sega. And this game actually came out in Japan in 2015.
Yeah.
But its worldwide release is in 2017, January 24th.
Yeah. The series was created by Toshihiro Nagoshi, and he was inspired by a bunch of Yakuza movies, and when he created it, he thought he could add in a bunch of flavor and stuff. So that's why people consider this like the Japanese GTA. Minus the Grand Theft part.
Minus a lot of...
minus the Grand Theft and... Well, there's Grand Theft, and then there's no autos, though.
Yes,
so
no autos.
This is GT Tokyo.
GT Tokyo.
Yeah. But yeah, it's... Oh my God, I could go on for days about this game. This game... Yeah, that's it. How about that? Just this game. No, but like...
The end podcast.
No. This game is really Japanese, like you said, and it was made for Japanese audiences. Like the creator stated that this game was made for Japanese audiences. So when it came to the West, he was afraid that people wouldn't play it or people wouldn't get it because it's nothing that Americans are used to, and the fact that all the mannerisms, the culture, and the Yakuza themselves, like people just think that they're just the Japanese mafia, which they are in some respects, but very different.
It's, a Japanese gang of some sort.
Yeah, exactly.
The reason why this game resonates with me is I really like Japanese culture. I've traveled to Japan before. I've seen a lot of Japanese movies. Like when you said this is inspired by Japanese Yakuza movies, the first one that comes to mind is Tokyo Drifter. And a lot of the colors and outfits resemble Tokyo Drifter.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And that type of style. I really like a lot of the things, like the cities, the environment, the mannerisms. It is very Japanese, like you said.
Very, very Japanese. And this one takes place in 1988, so it definitely is the prequel to everything Yakuza. So if you're a new Yakuza fan, it's like someone who just doesn't know what this is, then I suggest you buy this game first and play it. That it is $60 right now, but honestly, you're getting so many games with that $60. You're getting like basically... I'm bragging, but like 60 games. I'm embellishing too much. It's like you get 60 games, so that's $1 for every game. So that's good. It's a really good deal. Like it's fantastic. My favorite thing about Japan in general, because I've also been there too, is that is the convenience stores. So my face lit up when I saw a convenience store, and when you go, you can buy like the little things in the convenience store.
It's so amusing. There's a lot of details in this that's just super amusing to me. Like for example, so we'll get into a little bit of the background and the gameplay and how excited we are about it. Yeah. This game is about two people. Their names are Kiryu and Majima, and it takes place in Tokyo and Osaka. I'm not in Osaka yet, but I'm in the Tokyo area, and the name of the neighborhood is the Kamurocho district, which is based off of the
Kabukicho.
Kabukicho, which is the actual red light district in Tokyo.
Have you ever been there?
I have been there.
Me too.
in the daytime though.
Oh, I've been both at night and daytime.
Yeah, so when I was there, I see in the nighttime I walked by it, but I never actually walked into it.
I walked into it. I ate food in there.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah, no, I heard the food's really good there.
Yeah,
so.
I had udon. It was really tasty. It was really good.
Yeah.
Aside from that, like, we weren't born in the 80s and we didn't live through 1988. So obviously we don't know what Tokyo looked like at the time, but I will say this is a fairly good representation and like mix of present and past Tokyo, like the maps are, because I'm actually in Osaka right now. I'm in Sotenbori, which is like
Is that Dotonbori?
Yeah, exactly. It's their version of Dotonbori.
Amazing.
And so the Glico guy with his arms up, he isn't there in this version because it's 1988.
Wow.
It's 1988. So
I never thought about that.
Yeah, so it's very like precise to the time, and I thought that was really cool. And so Osaka is probably my favorite city of the two right now, just because like the people are crazy, the way they speak is different than the Tokyo people, and I think that was really cool is that they included that detail when in Sotonbori, which is they speak Kansai-ben, which is the dialect they speak in that area of Japan. Also, you can get takoyaki. I forgot to mention that. You can just go to the street and there's a stand, a takoyaki stand. I was like, oh my god.
That's awesome.
You're going to love that, Alyssa.
I know, because you can't do that in Tokyo.
No, you can't.
Because takoyaki is a Kansai thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god. This game is just awesome.
This game is, okay, so side note, Yakuza Kiwami is coming out in the summer of this year. And I think I mentioned in the last podcast, it's a full remake, HD remake of the very first Yakuza game, and all the voice actors redub their voices and it's built from the ground up, and I cannot wait to play that game too. I'm like, because I want to play in the future, I want to play closer to my time.
After playing this game, I really want to get into the whole series, and then Yakuza 6 is six came out actually.
It came out in Japan last year. Yeah, December last year.
Which means
fairly recently.
Which means it'll come back it will come out to the US probably
next year, 2018. For sure it's coming out 2018. And you can actually go online, and Sega posted during Tokyo Game Show last year a 40-minute video of Yakuza 6. Oh my god, it's like playing Uncharted.
Really?
Everything is seamless. The cutscenes are seamless, the fight scenes are seamless. When you go into a building, there's no load time. And
that's cool.
Kamurocho, because it's set in the present day, it looks exactly like it was like when I last went.
Oh wow!
And so like instead of like the Sega High Tech Game Club, it says Club Sega in the font from the original. Like I'm like, oh my god, it's exactly like. And you can go to the vending machines and buy drinks. You can select what.
Can I get a milk tea?
Yes, you can.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my god, there's so much detail in Yakuza 6. But here's another thing too. Like since we're still entry fans of the series, you and I, Lisa.
Yes.
Yakuza 6 is supposed to be Kazuma Kiryu's last game. It's not the last game in the series, but that's what everyone's speculating, but it's just the last game for his character arc.
Well, since I've never been in the series before, I didn't even know that these characters carried on. I honestly thought it was different characters each game.
Oh, so there are some spin-offs. There's one called Ishin, which is interesting because it takes place in feudal Japan. And I thought that was
what?
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Oh my god, this game's amazing.
Yeah, so all the voice actors return as like their ancestors' counterparts. So I thought that was really cool. And obviously, you can't play video games or do any of the side stuff. You can't play pool or darts, but they have like the equivalent of those during that time.
That's hilarious.
Unfortunately, it's not going to be released to the West because it's very, very, very Japanese, and it contains some characters that only Japanese people will understand and appreciate.
I might appreciate them.
Yeah, I would too. No, I'm all for bringing it back over here. I'm like, oh my god, I really want to play Ishin because it's PS4 only, it's Japan only. I'm just like, let me play it. It's samurai. I love like the samurai
I love that
stuff.
era.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Sega.
Yeah, Sega, please.
If you're listening,
please bring it out. I'm just gonna show you a picture. You can go to Wikipedia. I'm on Wikipedia right now. It's called Ryu ga Gotoku Ishin, which means like a dragon, Ishin. And this is the spin-off version of it. It's for PS3 and PS4. Look at that. Wow, that's Kazuma Kiryu right there in the middle.
For all our viewers, it looks amazing. You gotta Google it.
Oh yeah,
it
totally.
It looks really cool.
It's during the past, like the far past. So I thought that was really cool. And if only we were able to get this on our hands. But we'll see. Maybe they'll bring it over if there's enough popularity.
For sure. I think especially with this game, I've heard a lot of people talking about this game in the US. It's gaining a lot of traction internationally. In the UK, I think the game has been selling out and people have been wanting copies of it. Like, it's apparently really hard to get a copy of Yakuza Zero right now, a hard copy of it at least.
In the UK.
In the UK.
Because here in the US, I had that problem. I think I talked
really?
about it.
Yeah.
I talked about the very first podcast. I was like, yeah, I bought Yakuza Zero, but it was out of stock. It's been out of stock for like 3 weeks.
There you go.
There you have it. Yeah, there was a short problem in there.
Yeah.
I think Sega... I honestly believe Sega did it on purpose because they wanted to test the market. Because
that would make sense.
They've sold Yakuza games in the past here before, but they've only been like, it's only been 1, 2, 3, and I don't think 4. Oh, maybe 4. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Dead Souls, which is another spinoff about zombies, but they didn't do too well because I guess at the time they were just for different consoles, and so when they released Zero here, people were like grabbing it like crazy because it got such high praise from all these reviewers.
I know. It kind of makes you think, since they were testing the waters, I haven't played 1 through 6 yet.
Yeah.
What those games were like, and I guess how come it didn't attract an audience previously, and why is it getting all this traction now? Mm-hmm. So.
No, agreed. I'm feeling the same way. Like, I wonder what was it about this game that made everyone want to flock to the Yakuza series now? Because if it's sold out everywhere, like, holy shit, like, what did it do?
I know.
But maybe they're fans like us, who appreciate Japanese culture and appreciate just everything about this game are the ones that are buying it up. But
definitely,
and then they tell their friends too,
Definitely, because the fact that I've actually traveled to Japan before, it makes this game more interesting to me.
Yes.
Because you are playing in Japan versus if we talk to someone who's like never really heard of Japanese history or Japanese landscape, all those things. I don't know if they would be interested in this game.
No, yeah, totally. I mean,
they might see it as actually just like your good old action GTA and think of, oh, this is just a Japanese Grand Theft Auto first third person.
Yeah, no, totally.
But I don't know if they would actually really get into all of the cultural fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, in a way, Yakuza is both a realistic rendition of Tokyo or just Japan in general, and also like an embellishment of it.
Oh yeah, it's super over the top.
Oh yeah, that's what I love about it.
I know.
But the other thing too is, like, you and I went to LA recently with one of our friends, and right after I played Grand Theft Auto 5 because it takes place in Los Santos, which is basically LA. And I was like, I went to all the places that we went to as well, and I thought this was really cool. Like, it was really cool to see that 1-for-1, like, almost map of the same place.
It really is, and that's what I appreciate when Rockstar creates these games where I've actually visited the place before. For example, in the whole, not just Grand Theft Auto 5, but just this entire San Andreas series.
Yes.
It's based on Las Vegas, and it's also based off San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, like, it makes you kind of appreciate where you live more. Or where
it does.
And I thought that was really cool. I mean, like, with Ubisoft's Watch Dogs 2, it takes place in the Bay Area.
Yes.
Where we live, where we're from. And so I think that was really cool how they made almost a 1-for-1 rendition of the Bay Area. They did their best with San Francisco. But I think with Yakuza and Tokyo and Osaka, I think they did a really, really, really good job to capture the feel, the culture, the food especially. Because, like, Yakuza has a lot of food options. Yakuza 0. And Yakuza 6 has even more food options, I saw. Where you can decide what you want on your ramen. I'm like,
that's really cool.
I could just go to a restaurant and do it, but okay, I'll do it here.
That's really funny.
Yeah, Yakuza 6 is like the craziest, most detailed Yakuza iteration I've ever seen.
I can't wait to play it now.
Yeah, me too. I can't. I mean, it's nice we're getting 2 Yakuza games this year, but I really want to play the newest one,
The 6th one.
Yeah, and then probably by 2020 we'll get 7, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Just to kind of go into the gameplay and what it's kind of like a few of the details. In Yakuza 0, you're playing as one of the members, and you're walking through the city. There's not really any. At least I'm not on any portion that has cars.
There are. Well, I mean, like, your friend drives you around.
Yeah, your friend drives you around, but
and from the the opening scene,
yes,
there's a part where you guys are like shooting out the car. So I think that's the only part with cars.
Yeah.
You never get to drive it yourself. You're always a passenger.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, he probably doesn't have a license. He's only like 20.
That's true. He is only.
It's expensive to get a license.
He is only. And it's weird because initially I thought, oh, these people are like 40, and then when like their age got revealed, like, oh, okay then, well.
Majima's 24 for the record. He's like almost our age. I'm like, wow, this guy looks like he's 36.
He really does though.
They both have like beards and long. It's crazy.
I know. This is one of my favorite things about just their battle system.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be points where you have to encounter brawls and battles, and what will happen is when you're approaching a group of people you're going to attack, there's just like this text pop-up that says hooligans, or it says this like so-and-so guy, and then it starts the battle. So you beat these people up however you choose, and then you end up getting money off of it. You get yen depending on how quickly you beat them.
You basically just take their money.
Yeah, you take their money. And on top of that, with a lot of the dialogue, what I find interesting about Yakuza 0 is the fact that the dialogue kind of changes, because in some areas you'll have the dialogue presented where it's just cuts of people but their mouths aren't moving, they're just still, and it's accompanied with the voiceover as well as the sub. And then in other portions they're not like, no one's talking at all, it's just just a dialogue. They just make noises. And then you'll finally encounter parts where you actually see them talking to each other. And I don't mean in like just the cutscenes, but in the actual gameplay they're talking to each other. So it kind of it jumps around. This game has a lot of cuts.
Has a lot of reading too.
Yes, it does have a lot of reading. There's a lot of text.
There's so much, and especially with the sub stories, like you have like all those the sub stories are basically what you just talked about. How the sub stories are just them speaking, like not even like the voiceover. It's just like they'll say like they'll make a noise at the beginning, like or like at the beginning of their sentence, and then they'll have just text that you have to read, but their mouths move. Yeah, that's a lot of the subs. That's all the sub stories are. I thought that was interesting. And what's cool about the sub stories, real quick, is that the sub stories actually, some of them in Osaka, they intercross with each other. And
really?
I thought that was really cool.
Oh, okay.
Like there was a guy looking for a necklace for his girlfriend, and then he mentions like, oh, I should just get a fake. And then later on in the mission, like several missions later, you meet a guy who's a forger, and he can make fake stuff. And you're like, hey, I got a guy who could help you.
Oh, that's really cool.
I'm like, this is the greatest game ever. It's got such a good narrative.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of side missions, a lot of sides that you can do on top of the main story.
Wait till you go to Osaka. When my first night as Majima, I could not walk 10 feet without doing a submission. Like, it's gonna annoy you, but they're really, really fun. Like I told you before, the characters in Osaka are super crazier. Like they're crazier than the ones in Tokyo.
Well, one of them does have the one in Osaka does have an eye patch. So
there's a lot of like one-eye jokes that make me laugh. They make me laugh.
Just an idea of the different side missions that you can do, so you can help people out. You can also just do random ass things, hanging out with people. For example, when I'm still starting off in this game, and there was one period where I just spent like 2-3 hours like just doing karaoke.
Oh my god!
Because it's so entertaining, and the karaoke system is like, if you can think of like how cheesy the actual videos of karaoke are, it's straight up Kiryu, and I guess Majima when he's doing it, just this super like over the top like romanticized video, and exactly how you would see it, all these pictures of nature, and you see pictures of him singing, and then the bartender is just totally like staring at him the entire time.
Because that's the
like
world
all this
they
stuff.
live in, you know. And then, do you have a meeting in here? Did you book the room?
I booked the room.
Okay. Did you book it just now?
No, I just got a meeting invite. Somebody made to this room.
Oh,
interesting.
Oh God. Now an ad from our non-existent sponsor.
ダメよダメなのよあんたが好きで好きすぎてどれだけ強いお酒でも 歪まない思い出がバカみたい
Welcome back to Downtime Podcast, where two coworkers are talking about video games. As in the name, we are coworkers, and we do this podcast at work. And we just had an incident where we may have not booked the correct conference room that we're talking at.
Can you book it right now?
I will
just
book
do
it.
Right
I am
now.
going to
For
book
the last,
it.
15 minutes that you have left?
I am going to book
before
it
you go
right
to your
now.
next meeting.
Yes. Because we're already talking about Yakuza Zero.
Yeah.
I saw a really cool article about why arcades are still successful in Japan by Brian Ashcraft of Kotaku.
Was this a recent article?
This is a recent article. It came out last week. And I thought that it would be a good touch to end this podcast and our talk about Japan.
Sure.
The article covers that currently there's about 4,800 arcades all across the country. And it's talking about how till this day arcades are still relevant. They're still successful in Japan. But Yakuza Zero, the company who made it, Sega, is one of the contributing factors to why it's still successful. And so I just looked up the article when it popped up on my feed, and this is the list of things of why arcades are successful.
Okay.
So number one is arcade game makers own the arcades, and anyone who's ever traveled to Japan, especially if you've maybe been to the Akihabara district, you'll know that a lot of the arcades, they are actually pertain to that company. So for example, there is in Akihabara, there is just a huge red arcade, and that's the Sega arcade.
Yep.
And then on top of that, you also have Namco, Capcom, and Taito also.
Yeah. That's right.
Having their own arcades there.
Literally, it's a building full of just arcade games that company makes.
Yes.
So you'll see anything from Ghost Recon, Ghost Warrior, whatever, that shooter game from Sega, and also you'll see Initial D in the Sega one, as well as Virtua Fighter, which is pretty cool.
Have you ever played Initial D?
The actual game or the actual game in Japan?
The actual game in Japan.
Yeah, I did actually. It was the 5th version, whatever the newest version was, 6th one. 6th stage is what they call it.
I've never played Initial D in Japan, but when we were in that area, a few of my friends were just playing that.
Nice. It's always a fun game.
Yes. And there was a point in my life where almost every guy I knew existed just played this game and spent so much money. Were you one of those people who spent all the money at the arcade?
I did it twice because my friends are super into it. You gotta get this car. I was like, oh man. Actually, that's where I started liking Skyline R34s is because of that game, because I thought it was a cool car.
Yeah.
And then my friends were like, oh, you should play this game with me. And so I started playing it. I played it twice with them, and then I was like, this is a waste of money.
It is a waste of money.
I was like, this is stupid.
I had a friend from middle school who just went to Golfland, which is the arcade that I live close to.
Nice.
And he spent so much money, so much of his allowance on Initial D.
He could have bought a real car.
With
the money he spent. Probably.
Now, I don't know, but I'm just going to say yes. And I'm not going to say his name.
Okay, yeah. We'll keep it that way. Sorry, pal. Anyways.
So next on this list of why arcades are still successful in Japan is that Japanese arcades are part of the landscape. A lot of them are located near train stations. They're incorporated into the work life. So that when you leave for work, go to the arcade.
Yeah.
And it's incorporated into areas of high traffic, pretty much.
Yeah, and there's some of the tallest buildings in that area, and they also are some of the brightest colors. So, for example, Sega, like you said, is red. And when you see that, you're like, oh, I can see it. And the Sega letters are huge. They're
yes.
like, oh, yeah, okay. I can see that's the Sega arcade building.
Yes, exactly.
And it'll say, Club Sega over it or whatever,
Club Sega.
Yeah, and I thought that was really cool. And I grew up playing Sonic the Hedgehog. I think we've talked about this before. And so obviously Sega resonates with me greatly, and I have a huge affiliation with Sega, to the point where I'm just like, oh yeah, I'll step in that Sega arcade. I'll see what's up in there. And then I went in there, and my friends and I played the crane game. We played the taiko drum game, and That's cool. Yeah.
Third on the list is that Japanese arcades respond to trends. So there will be games not only for young people, but for the middle-aged working people, as well as elderly people.
Yeah.
For all ages.
I noticed that in the Sega one, there was like a horse race betting game.
Yes.
And I was like, this is weird. But hey, like you just said, it's for everyone.
It appeals to everybody.
I thought that was really cool. I think it's very inventive of them.
It is very inventive of them, which is sort of part of the next one, continued innovation.
Continued innovation.
They don't stay complacent.
Yeah.
Always trying to improve.
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
And I think that's one of the things that's important to arcades. Like a lot of arcades where we're from, they're always updating the games, as well as a lot of these arcades are attached to bars. And that's like a huge appeal of why people will go there.
And if you've noticed, a lot of the arcades around us too, like the ones that are attached to bars, have retro games in them. And that's like a huge fad now.
Yes.
Like there's a bar near us called Brewcade.
Yes.
And it's all like retro games. And you have arcades that are like Chuck E. Cheese, basically, that have all the newest and latest and greatest video games, or like Dave & Buster's, you know? And then there are some arcades that have just retro games. And I think that's a huge fad here in the U.S., which is like retro gaming.
Nostalgia.
Yeah, like, you know, the NES Classic? That sold out so quick. They're talking about making an SNES Classic and a Genesis Classic. I'm like, damn, just do it already. It'll sell out like instantly.
Exactly. I think, and it's just appealing to the different cultures because, like, for example, this is what makes arcades successful in the U.S.
Yeah.
Aside from, like, I know another arcade that I mentioned earlier, Golfland. It's not just an arcade; it's also a golf course. Like, it's also mini golfing. So that's how arcades appeal to U.S. people. Whereas in Japan, it's just like a lot of different things. And then, like, another example of continued innovation is in last year's Japan Amusement Expo. Sega was, and I'm not sure if it was Sega, but a company was talking about.
Might have been Sony.
Maybe Sony. VR in the arcade.
Yeah, there's probably Sony. That makes sense.
Yes.
Which would be cool. I mean, like, I think they talked about having Resident Evil 7 as an arcade game, as a VR arcade game. I think that would be interesting.
That would be really cool.
You know?
And lastly, what makes arcades still successful in Japan is that many of the things you can only experience at the arcade, whereas a lot of arcades here in the US, you can play those games on consoles, as well as it's becoming a thing in the US where iPad games are being implemented into arcades. Where in Japan, there's a lot of things like crane games and a lot of card-based games like taiko drums that you can't do anywhere else. But I will say, for the US, we're talking specifically about like arcade video games, not talking about things like the basketball game or talking about things like the fishing game.
Yeah, that's different. Or like big game hunting. Like no one does that in Japan. What the hell? Why would you put that in Japan? Like maybe they would have it there because it's kind of exotic. It's like, ooh, an American game where you can hunt big animals in Africa. It's like, what the hell? You know? But hey, whatever floats your boat. And like for me, I think that's what I appreciate most about Japanese arcades is like the variety of games and like how they're always innovating and providing something. Like it doesn't matter how old you are, you'll always find some kind of entertainment there.
Exactly. All right. Since we're not sure if we still have this conference room, we're going to end this podcast. Thank you for listening to the third episode of Downtime Podcast.
Thank you.